Welcome back. Hey guys, it's Rishi once again, and today we're back with our sharing ratio topic. So in this topic, you'll be learning how to share ratio, working with two different ratios and one value, and working out how much each of them gets. And then moving over to more complex ratio questions where we have two people and we need to split up a number of sweets to find out how much each person gets. And again, the best thing is that we've incorporated questions where we've got different sorts of metric units, from pounds to grams to milliliters, everything that will help you to pass the exam. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Question number 1. Will and Ollie share £80 in the ratio of 3:2. What does that mean? And how can we work out how much each of them get? Well, the first thing we're going to do is add our ratio. So we now know this is out of 5 parts. So that's going to be 3 parts here for Will and 2 parts for Ollie. And again, because Will comes first, he is given 3. And because Ollie comes second, he is given 2. So now that we've added our ratio, so that was step 1, we have 5 parts. Step 2 is merely going to be £80, which is our amount, divided by 5, which gives us 16. So now we know one part is 16. And then the final part is multiplying them out to work out what each person gets. So we have 3 multiplied by 16, which gives us 48, and 2 multiplied by 16, which gives us 32. So now we know Will gets 48 and Ollie gets 32. And a way to check that is simply adding 48 to 32, which gives us 80. And there we are. Okay, let's move over to question number 2 here. Molly, Paige, and Demi share 42 sweets in the ratio of 3:2:1. So let's work out the number of sweets that each of them receives. So again, step 1, let's go ahead and add our ratios, and that gives us 6. And then we need to go ahead and divide 42 by 6, which gives us 7. So now we know that each ratio part is going to be 7. So we've got 3:2:1. So let's go ahead and write out 7 in each of these boxes here. And now that we've done that, let's go ahead and multiply them out. So for Molly, we're going to multiply 7 by 3, which gives us 21. With Paige, we're going to multiply this by 2, which gives us 14. And for Demi, we're going to keep it the same, and that's going to be 7. So now we know Molly gets 21 sweets, Paige gets 14 sweets, and Demi gets 7 sweets. And again, to check this to see if it is true, let's go ahead and add 21, 14, and 7. So we know that 5 and 7 is 12, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So yes, in fact, they do share 42 sweets amongst each other. I hope that visual representation was clear. Let's now move over to question 3. So ABC is a straight line, and it's now told us that the length of B to C is 3 times the length of A to B. So where this is 1, B to C would be 3. And we know that A to C is now 80 meters long. So like we did before, step 1, we add our ratio, so we know it's 4 parts in total, and we divide 4 by 80 meters, which gives us 20. So now we know that is equal to 1 part. And because they're asking us to work out the length of B to C, which we know is 3, we can simply go ahead and multiply 20 by 3, which gives us 60. So now we know B to C is 60 meters long. And again, to check it out once more, we know 20 is 1 part and 60 is 3 parts. If we go ahead and add that together, that gives us 80 in total. So like I've reiterated before, we add the ratio parts, divide it by the total amount, which gives you 1 ratio, before multiplying out with what the question's asking you to do. In this case, it was B to C, which is 3 parts. Hence, we multiplied 1 part by 3. I hope that was clear. Let's now go ahead and move into the next question, which is question 4. So feel free to pause the video here, attempt these 2 questions, and then we'll go through the answers. Welcome back. Let's now go through the answers for question 4 and 5. So Carly and James share some money in the ratio of 5-3. So let's go ahead and add that together. So we know there's 8 parts. But it states that Carly gets £70 more than James. So if Carly gets £70 more than James, that means we need to find the difference of the two numbers here. So 5 take away 3 gives us 2. So £70 more is equivalent to 2 parts. So let me give you a visual representation of this. We have Carly and we have James. Carly gets 5 ratios here and James only gets 3. So that means the remaining 2 has to be worth £70. So if that's the case, let's work out what 1 costs. So we'll have 70 divided by 2, which is 35. So that means each part here is worth £35. So now if we need to work out how much money James gets, we know all we need to do is multiply 3 by 35, which gives us £105, and that is what James would get. So once again, if a question is proving to be a little bit challenging, go ahead and draw it out. That way, you'll get a better understanding of what they're asking you to do. Okay, question number 5. Jerry and Mick share some money in the ratio of 2-3, and Mick gets £900. So again, we know it's shared in 2-3, but Mick gets £900. So that's Jerry and that's Mick. So again, what do we need to do? We need to work out 1 ratio, so 1 part, and then times it by 2 to see what Jerry gets. So again, we know 900 divided by 3 equals 300, which is 1 part. We then need to times this by 2, which gives us 600. So now we know that Jerry gets 600. And that's your 2-step method written out. I hope you got both of the questions correct, but if not, it's absolutely fine. Review the steps that you've done to see where you went wrong. Practice makes improvement, so keep on going. Question number 6. Ali and Steve share some sweets in the ratio of 2-7. So that's Ali and Steve. And Ali gets 30 more sweets than Steve. So again, remember what we did in our previous question here, where we had Carly and James. We got the difference of both parts, and that's what we're going to do here. So we know the difference between 7 and 2 is 5. So let's go ahead and get our amount, which is 30 more sweets, and divide this by 5, which gives us 6. So now we know that 1 part equals 6. We're then going to go ahead and multiply this by 7, because that is what Steve has. So 7 times 6 is 42. So now we know that Steve gets 42 sweets. But I'm going to give you another visual explanation here. So we have Ali and we have Steve. And Ali has 2 parts, while Steve has 7 parts. So remember now, in this section here, he gets 30 more sweets. And so what we need to do is divide 5 by 30, which gives us 6. And so now we can fill out the remaining ones. And then we add up what Steve gets. So in this case, we have 7 multiplied by 6, and that gives us 42. And that is our answer. Okay, question number 7. Dave is making cookies, and he mixes flour, butter, and sugar in the form of 6-4-1. And he uses 160 grams of butter. Well, the first thing we know is that 4 is your butter, so that's 160 grams. So if 160 equals 4, what must 1 equal? So again, we are going to divide both sides by 4, because that will give us 1. So now we know that 1 ratio will give us 40 grams. And we need to work out how much flour and sugar Dave uses. So if 1 equals 40 grams, then we already know that sugar is 1. So that can be 40 grams. But flour is 6. So what do we need to do? We need to multiply 40 by 6, which gives us 240 grams. So now we know that there are 240 grams of flour. Okay, question number 8. Alvin and Simon share £540 in the ratio of 4 to 5. And Alvin gave half of his share to Theo, and Simon gave a tenth of his share to Theo. So what fraction of £540 did Theo receive? So the first thing I'm going to do is add my ratio, and then I'm going to divide 9 by 540, which gives me 60. So now I know one ratio part equals 60. And then let's go ahead and find out how much Alvin has. So 4 times 60, and Simon, which is going to be 4 times 50. So we know that is 240 and 200. And now we will find out how much Theo gets. So Alvin has given half of his share. So if we say a half of 240, we know half of 24 is 12. So that gives us 120. And then Simon gives 1/10 of his value, which is 300. So now let's calculate how much Alvin and Simon both get. So for Alvin, we know he's got 4 as a ratio. So we times that by 60, which gives us £240. And remember, he gives half of his share. So if we divide that by 2, that gives us £120. So this is for Theo. Simon, on the other hand, he has 5. So if we times that by 60, that gives us 300. And now he gives a tenth. So we divide that by 10, which is £30. And if we add that together, that gives us £150. So we now know Theo receives £150 out of the 540. But now let's go ahead and put this in our simplest form. So again, we can cross out the zeros. So we're left with 15 over 54. And we know that these two numbers are divisible by 3. So divide both sides by 3, which gives us 5 over 18. Once again, the question did not ask to give the fraction in the simplest form. So if you had given it as 150 over 540, that would have been absolutely fine. Amazing work. Let's keep going. Question number 9. ABC is a straight line, and the length of B to C is 4 times the length of A to B. So if B to C is 100, how can we calculate the length of A to C? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and divide this by 4 into 4 equal parts. So now I know that this is broken up into sections of 25. So now that means that A to B is 25, because when A to B is 25, then B to C is 4 times the length of A to B. And we know 4 times 25 is 100. So now if we calculate the entire length of A to B, that's 25 multiplied by 5, which gives us 125. So the length of A to C is 125 meters. Okay, question number 10. So Bob is going to make some orange paint, and he needs to mix the red paint, the yellow paint, and white paint in the ratio of 5 to 4 to 1. And Bob wants to make 750 milliliters of orange paint. And we've been given some information here. So overall, we need to find out if Bob has enough red paint, yellow paint, and white paint to make the orange paint. So let's take a look at this. Let's add up our ratio, which gives us 10. We then know that he wants to make 750 milliliters of orange paint. So we're going to divide 10 by 750 milliliters, which gives us 75. So we now know one part equals 75. So let's now see if he has enough parts to mix the paint. So we know he goes for red paint in the ratio of 5. So again, we can have 5 times 75, which gives us 375, which is amazing because Bob has 400 ml. We then have 4 as our yellow paint. So we can go for 4 times 75, which gives us 300. Again, that is amazing because Bob has 300 milliliters of yellow paint. And then if we go for white, we know that that ratio would be 1. So 1 times 75 is 75, which is also perfect for us because he has 200 milliliters of white paint. So all in all, that works really well for us. So our answer is yes, Bob has enough paint. Amazing. I hope that question was clear. Let's now move over into the next one. Question 11. So Megan is going to make a drink using the instructions below. And Megan has 180 milliliters of fruit juice and 400 milliliters of sparkling water. So what is the greatest amount of drink Megan can make? Well, let's take a look here. We have 2 parts of fruit juice and 5 parts of sparkling water. So now with 180 milliliters of fruit juice, we now know if we divide that by 2 parts, that will be 90. So we've got 2 parts here with 90 each, and then 5 parts of sparkling water. So again, if we put 90 in each one, we now know 90 times 5 is 450 milliliters. And that clearly is not enough, because that would mean that we have 50 milliliters short of sparkling water when we would require 450 milliliters. But now let's take a look on the basis of having 400 milliliters of sparkling water. So now we know we've got 5 parts of it. So let's go for 400 divided by 5, which gives us 80. So again, if we take our 7 parts here, 80 and 80, and let's write 80 in each section here, we know we have 160 in total to 400. So once again, we know that works really well, because in total we have 180 and 400, which gives us 580. And when we work with 400 milliliters of sparkling water, we get 560 milliliters. So the greatest amount of drink that Megan can make is 560 milliliters. So again, what have I done? I've worked with 2 different values here. I've considered using 90 milliliters as one part because I focused on the 180 milliliters of fruit juice, but that didn't work. So I then moved over to the 400 milliliters of sparkling water, and that worked really well for me. Amazing work. Let's now move over to the next question, which is question 12. We're almost at the end of this topic, so keep up the good work. You're almost there. So this is a probability question. So now we have red counters, blue counters, and white counters, and the table shows a probability of getting a red counter. And it also states that the number of blue counters to white counters is 2 to 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 0.35 from 1 whole, because that is our total amount. So probability is out of 1 whole, and that gives me 0.65. Now out of the 0.65, we have 2 to 3, which gives us 5 parts. So now if I divide this by 5 parts, I know I get 0.13 as 1 part. And we know that blue counters was 2 parts. So if I times this by 2, it gives me 0.26, which is going to be my blue counter. And if I times this by 3, it will give me 0.39, which is my white counter. And that's now completed for us. So remember, probability is always out of 1 whole, and there we are. Okay, question 13. So again, this is a question around, so now we know that 3 people share 3,000 euros, and the ratio that Al gets to the amount Tom gets is 5 to 4. And Joe gets 1.5 times the amount that Tom gets. So work out the amount of money that Tom gets. So as we know, Tom gets 4 and Joe gets 1.5 times the amount of Tom gets. We need to multiply 4 by 1.5, which gives us 6. And then we can go ahead and write down our ratio here. So we have 5, 4, and 6. We then need to go ahead and add our ratio here, which gives us 15 in total, before dividing this from 3,000. Again, we can go ahead and double the numbers, and that will give us 6,000 over 30. We can cut down the zeros and have 600 divided by 3, which gives us 200, before multiplying that to get Tom's value. And we know Tom was 4, so 200 multiplied by 4 gives us 800. So now we know Tom gets 800 euros. So what have I done? I found out that Joe gets 1.5 times the amount of Tom does. So we have Tom times 1.5. We then put the ratios together and added them, which gave us 15. before dividing it by 3000 and then timesing it by Tom. And there we are. Okay, we have 2 questions left. Okay, let's dive into question 14. So Harry and Gary have a total of 300 stickers. And the ratio of the number of stickers that Harry has to the ratio of number of stickers that Gary has is in the ratio of 7:3. So again, we add that together, we get 10. We'll have 300 divided by 10, which means 1 part equals 30. Harry then gives Gary some stickers. And the ratio of the number of stickers Harry has to what Gary has is 8:7. So if we go ahead and add that, that gives us 15. And if we have 300 divided by 15, that again we can double to 600 over 30, cut out the zeros and have 60 divided by 3, which gives us 20, which is again 1 part. And it's now asking how many stickers Harry gives to Gary. So now we need to work out how much Harry has first. So in order to work out what Harry has, I know that Harry had 7 ratios, and we know each part was 30. So that gives me 210. And then if we work out how many stickers he gives to Gary, that again was 20 as 1 part, and we multiplied that by 8, and that gives us 160. So if we get the difference of how many he gives, we would get 50. So our overall answer here would be 50. I hope that question was clear. Let's now move over to the final one. So a shop sells small chocolate bars and large chocolate bars. And now there are small chocolate bars which are sold in packs of 4 and large chocolate bars which are sold in packs of 9. And on one day, the number of packs of small chocolate bars sold compared to large chocolate bars sold is 5:2. And we now know that the total amount of chocolate bars sold was 95. And let's work out the number of small chocolate bars that are sold. So let's go for small to large. We know the ratio here was 5:2. And because they are sold in packs of 4 for the small and the large are sold in packs of 9, let's multiply them out. So we get 20:18. We can then simplify this to get 10:9. So if we add that together, that gives us 19 parts. And so if we have our total amount, which is a total of 95 chocolate bars sold, we can simply have 95 divided by 19, which gives us 5. So now we know 5 will equal 1 part. And so we know our small was 10 parts. So we can now multiply 5 by 10, which gives us 50. So the number of small chocolate bars sold was 50. And once again, that brings us to the end of our section here. And that was sharing ratio. So I hope you can see the value in today's session here. We've gone through a number of different questions. And once again, you've done really well. We've gone through a range of different methods and a range of different questions. And don't feel bad if you have to go back and read through any questions in detail. This is the best time for you to do it. So keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next video.